Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm here to discuss Connor Chronicles Season 1 and 2, both. This is an interesting interpretation of the Terminator universe. I will give it that. But because of where it led and some of the stuff that it involved, don't get me wrong, it's definitely entertaining. As showgoer score for my channel that I usually do, showgoer score will go 5 out of 5. However, objectively, this story is all over the place. Objectively, the story goes into territories that it feels sort of unnecessary, and I feel that it could have been put to better use in other areas. So, objectively, I will give this a 3 out of 5. Now, that's a 6 out of 10 because there are a lot of technical goofs. Lena Headey is definitely one of the hottest Sarah Connor. Yes, she is. I will give you that. Junebug, I will definitely give you that. But I still prefer Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton, the original. She is, but yes, Lena Headey is definitely the hottest. But as far as the character of Sarah Connor, I think that Linda Hamilton did the best. Now, the story basically, it objectively, like I said, it gets a failing grade because it breaks the timeline, so many errors, it's a convoluted mess, and whatnot. So objectively, it is flawed beyond a possibility of a passing grade. Subjectively, I like it. I honestly have no problem. I won't say it's a guilty pleasure. I like it. But I can acknowledge the flaws. Now, you do not hear things like T-1000, T-800, or even the word Terminator in this show all the way up to the finale of Season 2. I mean, you only hear the word Terminator once in this entire arc. That's it. Just once. And they're not T-800s that are attacking people. They're T-888s. And the character of Cameron, played by Summer Glow, is a T-900. And for those of you who don't know what a T-9 or the T-9s, they exist twofold. One is the Terminator Rise of the Machines movie, and the other is Sarah Connor Chronicles, where the T-9s is a sleeker, slender, and more efficient model than the T-8s, which was the Arnie build. Now the T-888s are basically like the T-800s, but they're upgraded in certain areas. The T-1000 that plays in Season 2, which is the woman Catherine Weaver, she's actually not a T-1000, she's a T-1001, to be all specific. And this is where things get confusing, because in the second season they introduce multiple possibility timelines. Also, you see that Skynet is reacting from the future in real time, basically, in the second season. This show is good. Don't get me wrong. I like it. I like it. Don't hate me. But it does have flaws. Like how they're saying how John Connor says he was 12 years old when the T-800 or when the T-1000 was sent to kill him. No, that is incorrect. He was 10 years old. It was 1995 when the Terminator was sent back, or when the T-1000 was sent back to kill John. he was only 10 years old. So, and when he's 16 in the year 1999, that's incorrect. He would have been 16 in the year 2001. So, they're screwing up a lot of the timeline. And thank you, We Are Star Trek. Happy Dinosaur, good to see you. And yeah, I mean, they got a lot of things wrong with the timeline. Now, the actors and whatnot, the casting for this show, very good. Now, I mean, I wouldn't have exactly chose that guy for Dr. Silverman, but because Dr. Silverman was going bald. But this is easily can be argued as an alternate multiverse to the Terminator franchise. And also, if any of you guys want to discuss spoilers and whatnot, please use the StreamYards link that I put in the chat. But only come on if you have seen the show all the way through, both seasons, and want to discuss it in detail. Now, I do like this the T-1001 Weaver's character, because at first when she's introduced, you don't know what to make of her. You honestly don't. And thank you, Lyndon. I know it was risque, but that's why I put the words to cover that area of her. But hey, if they pull my stream because of a risque thumbnail that covers or covers the good stuff, that's just pretty damn petty on their part. Oh damn, my name changed from Nobody Geek to We Are Star Trek. I have to work on my. That's okay, Nobody Geek. Yeah, as a time traveler, I could tell you Terminator broke space and time. It was my job to fix it. Glad I retired from that job. But yeah, please, folks, drop a like, smash that like, terminate that like button if you can, in this case, and share the stream if you're able. I would love to have people actually in this chat. That's why I have the StreamYard link in the chat if you want to come on. And we got Nobody Geek, so how are you, Geek? Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let me just turn off the audio 1 minute. There you go. So, like I was saying, how you doing, Kamen Rider? To answer Kamen Rider, we're going on Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. We're talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, sorry, but we are talking spoilers.
Oh, but yeah, when did that show even go off the air? Wasn't it 5-6 years ago?
2008, 2009. 2008, 2009.
Holy crap, it's been that long?
Yep. But I wasn't really sold on the ending of it, where they're sent to the future, but it's basically Kyle Reese is the savior of mankind and whatnot, and I'm like, yeah, that's the problem with that kind of twist, because, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. They also introduced the different timelines where the character of Jesse, which was Derek Reese's love interest, came from a different timeline than Derek himself, because in her timeline, Derek Reese was tortured by one of those Greys, which are humans that help the machines. And in his timeline, it was her that was captured and tortured. So, and then also the T-1001 that was sent basically to be recruited by John Connor, hers said no, where Catherine Weaver, TK1, or T1K1, said yes. So it's like, this is interesting, but it's also convoluted and it can confuse people. because they don't explain things very well. So what do you think?
I was actually initially optimistic about the Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles at first. I liked Summer Guru from Firefly, obviously.
Summer Glow, yeah.
Anyway. Yeah,
It's
I'm
all right.
terrible. Yeah, trust me, I'm the worst with names, so don't quote me on that. No, I like the idea, the premise, the initial concept of okay, so for context, I love Terminator 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I don't really like any of them past that point, and my wife really likes Terminator 3. That's her favorite, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with it. But I kind of liked the premise of going back to post Terminator 2 and changing certain things up. But then they went overboard, and I don't think they had the right budget. For example, that T-800 skeleton, I mean, as best as I could remember it looks so terribly CGI'd. I was like, the
Yeah.
80s, I mean, T2 had, and yes, I know it's a movie, but let's put some context here. We're talking a movie back in the, what was it? T2 came out in the early 90s, right?
T2
And
was 91, I believe.
that CGI, in my opinion, holds up like another favorite movie of mine. A little less recognition, but James Cameron related. The Abyss.
Yep. That's actually what
And
led to the inspiration for the T-1000's liquid metal, I believe.
And it was so amazing, and I mean, still, you can watch that movie now, and because they were smart about their practical effects and their CGI, even that early on, it still is relatable and holds up today. Whereas if you watch the Sarah Connor Chronicles, when you see the skeleton versus the skeleton from the 80s, where, yes, it was very robotic in its movement after Arnold Schwarzenegger's character was taken out. But,
Yeah.
that was fine. Okay, that was stop motion animation. We can respect that. And then we got this massive, beautiful CGI of T2. And then, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, good. I would say in the Marine Corps, we used to have a saying: good initiative, bad execution. And
Yeah.
that is where I would go with it. They had a massive amount of potential, but it was
It
on
just
Fox,
had a lot
right?
of goofs.
And it was
Say
on
what?
Fox, right? It was on Fox, right?
I
I think
think
so.
so, yes.
Yeah, but when we saw, and I don't remember exactly how it worked, but somebody walked in on the T-800 or the T-800 esque, and it was just in its
Yeah.
skeletal form, and it was so badly CGI'd. I was like, I
Yeah.
literally at that
I
point
know
almost
what that was the Cromartie. That was Cromartie's T80 or T888 when
and
it was
that
about to
was,
get its bloodbath. Yeah.
I can deal with bad props from the old school days with good acting, but unfortunately, this series had, I think, three really good actors, and that was about it. And that was the woman who played Sarah Connor, the one who played was it Brian Green, the guy who played Reese's brother, who I actually thought was a really great
Yeah.
character design. I really liked him, and actually that's about it. Summer
Glow.
yeah, her.
It's like glow in the dark, but it's spelled Scottish.
Glow. Okay. Well, thank you, because that's the first time I've ever actually heard
Yeah.
anybody say her name out loud. Uh, anyway,
Yeah.
I thought she was good and she had potential, but then they couldn't figure out what the hell to do with her character, and I thought they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do with their Terminator. And unfortunately, the biggest flaw with the show was, in a sense, in my mind, the same flaw we've had with the Terminator series. We can only suspend our disbelief of so many Terminators coming back, so many to kill the same person. It just
Yeah.
you get to a point where you're like, okay, even a sci-fi fan is like, this is bullshit.
Well, there's one thing that I didn't like in season 2, which was basically the middle of season 2, where the T900, which is Summer Glow, Cameron, she started having reverted experiences basically based on her human template, where she's still the machine, but somehow she's having memories of the human that she was based off of. And I'm like,
Yeah. Oh.
that should not happen. And also the fact that she was getting too human-esque at certain points, it did kind of throw me off a little bit. It's like, no, this small arc where she was going human, so to speak, and remembering her previous or her templates past, no, that doesn't work. And I thought that was kind of a mistake for them to make. Now, yes, the CGI was also bad. That, or the T888 endoskeleton or full CGI, that was just horrible in that scene. And it's like, you guys might want to touch up the texturing a little bit.
You would think for the amount of money Fox has in a budget, and I mean, I'm not a film guy. I don't know anything about how budgets work and everything, but you have to believe that when they were putting this together, they had to realize when they saw the final product, I mean, it looked cheap. I mean, King Kong
it was a
back in the
show and it
30s
was low
looked
budget,
realer.
so.
Well,
and I believe that was in the first season, so there was only 9 episodes.
Was there only? I don't remember. It's been a while, but I do remember what you were talking about there. You remember one of the biggest flaws happened was between the pilot and the second episode. Remember the T900 Glow's character had a very human personality, and then from that point on, it went automatically flipped back to almost Arnold Schwarzenegger's
Completely,
robotic.
yeah.
And there was never an explanation on that. And I remember reading an article that they changed something up there, but I'm like, if you're gonna change your storyline up like that, and you're gonna change the personality of a potential major character, you might want to, put some explanation there. You can't just say, well, it's a pilot and move on. That's like saying, well, it was the first season, let's move on. No, the pilot is what grabs you. The first season is what holds you. So there was a big flaw there. And also, one of the biggest issues I had, I like the lady who played Sarah Connor. I can't think of her name. Lena Headey. Thank you. Yeah, I actually enjoyed her. I thought she really took some stock in what Sarah Connor was, but that kid who was playing John didn't act anything like John from T2. Not even close. And this is supposed to be right after T2. This kid is so.
It was actually supposed to take place 6 years after T2 because he was supposed to be 16, but they said in the show he was 13 when they sent the other Terminator to kill him.
Which is not true.
And it's like, he was 10.
Yeah.
He was 10 years old. And it's like,
it says it right there on the freaking T800s. What, infrared or something? Remember, they had him. I mean, they knew it.
They also had it on the search queue from the police vehicle when the T1000 came back.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
And
it's character.
There was so many timeline mistakes that they made that it's like if he was 16, it would have been 2001. And if he was 13, well, the movies are obsolete. So that's why I say it works best if it's not connected to Terminator 1 and 2 too much. But it's basically, it works best as a what if, in my opinion.
I didn't like the fact that, and I'm going to point this one out, the fact that she actually says, "What's 9/11?" and they all look at her like she's out of her mind. And I mean, like they just cut away from that. I'm thinking, okay, that's
Yeah, they
not
gave a
something you
brief.
just.
They gave a narrative, or they gave a narration of it, of her reaction. It's like 3 billion people I can imagine. 3,000 I can't. And it's like, you can't imagine 3,000 people dying because of 9/11? That's kind of hard to believe, woman. I mean, you can imagine 3 billion people dying because of a freaking nuclear apocalypse, but you can't imagine 9/11. Okay.
Exactly. And that was one of the
Radically.
biggest.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. It was just one of those things where it threw me off. It almost took me completely out of the show because it was like, okay, he's like, well,
Yeah.
after 9/11, she's like, 9/11 was what, and then they all look at her like she's out of her mind. But then it just goes completely away. I mean, it's almost never, and it's like, you talk about it, she's like, well, I can't, picture. It's like, wait a minute, you can't picture. You can picture an apocalyptic disaster, but not a terrorist attack. I'm not buying it. And this was the moment where she lost me as Sarah Connor. She lost me there. I was really on board with her and really was rooting for her character. I thought she was doing a good job, but after that, I lost my interest. And when the show got canceled, or when it ended, I just was like, I would have liked to have seen a third season, but I don't think it could have survived past the third season. If anything, it
wouldn't have
been.
They were right, in my opinion. They were right to cancel it then, because they wrote themselves in such a corner that it wouldn't work.
Exactly, I agree. They did write themselves in the corner. I mean, I still wasn't sure
you
how they
created
were.
2 AIs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the John Henry AI from the second season, the one that Cromartie's body talked through, or was getting talked through, it's like it gets hacked by Skynet apparently, and I'm like, okay, interesting. So Skynet worked, or is still around in 2007 when they were supposedly hunting Skynet as it was born. So how did the backups get hacked, or how did Skynet survive? They blew up Cyberdyne, and they said they blew it up in 97. It's like, oh my God, shut up. Stop saying that. You guys are going to piss people off. But a lot of Terminator fans who are generic Terminator fans, they say that it's like, or they say these different years, and it's like, any Terminator fan worth their salt is going to know that this is all freaking wrong. Hold on one second. But yeah, and it's just,
Yeah, it was frustrating. And we never did get I could be wrong. You may be able to correct me. It's been a while since I've seen both seasons, but I never did understand the motivation of the I think she was an Irish actress, the one who was playing like the T-1000 model. She just
her Catherine
personality
Weaver.
her
Scottish.
personality flip-flopped so much. I mean, she killed a guy in the toilet, but yet she's caring for this kid, and she's goes between acting robotic to acting human, and that was one of the biggest problems. I was like, okay, you can't have this both ways. And it was
she was learning, basically, is what was going on. She
had her read only turned off, I guess.
Yeah, her read, or her ROM instead of RAM, was basically, the thing is, T1000s are complete liquid metal. Even their chip is liquid metal. So to be able to reprogram it, that's another thing that I think does not make sense.
I agree.
Now they try to explain away with the alternate timeline on the sub that they show where the
Oh God,
T1000
I
is being
hated that
recruited.
episode. I hated that episode. I thought that
I
was
thought
one
it
of the
was
worst because they made
I thought it
John
was
sound so
foolish.
stupid. They made John like, oh, John's trusting a Terminator. I'm like, I'm not buying. And I would just be like, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying John would put all these people on a sub with a Terminator and expect me to trust him. I'm just not buying it. This guy
Yeah,
knows way too much about Terminators to just blindly trust them.
exactly.
That
And it wasn't working in my opinion. And
no, I agree.
my but the whole thing with this T1000, which was Weaver, we'll call her Weaver. She's
Okay.
actually a T1001 apparently because they couldn't use T1000 or T800 in the shows because of copyright issues or something. And I'm like, that makes no sense because it is connected to Terminator. What's your
I
problem?
don't know. I
But
don't know.
because it was
I mean,
Fox,
CBS has that thing going with Star Trek, so who knows? You
yeah,
know, those movie
but it's
TV
because it was
rights.
Fox that is why. You actually don't hear the word Terminator until the very last episode of season 2. When Sarah Connor
damn, you're
calls
right.
the T1K1, which is Weaver, you Terminator bitch. And she's like, you're one to call somebody a bitch. But yeah, but the way I think Weaver's T1001 or the TK1 is what I call it.
Okay.
Or just Weaver. The way I see it, she came back to assist John. She was the one that actually says yes to join him because they're apparently Skynet fears T1000s. It was made on the premise of a last-ditch effort to win the war. And it only made it as a prototype. So that fits. So T1000 and T2 fits. It would be a prototype. For the T1000, or for it to try to keep going, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because the T1000 is able to learn and act on its own. It is basically self-aware, and if it chooses, it can act in opposition to Skynet. So
But
that is why. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean. But wasn't that the whole point in T2 when they talked about it? You know, that whole big thing about the learning computer, but Skynet has us on read only when we go out. And,
Yeah.
Sarah points out, he goes, doesn't want you to learn too much. Exactly. So my crazy
Yeah.
question is, if the T1000s or that particular model were experimental, okay, I can buy that. I've even been willing to buy that there was an offsite where the T1000 was sent, and that's why you were able to pull off 2 movies. But you get past that point, you start to say, okay, I thought Kyle made it very clear that at the end of Terminator, they destroyed Skynet. Killing Connor wouldn't have made a difference. That's why they sent it back in time. Now I can buy an alternate site for the T1000 as an experiment. Everything past that, including even the Sarah Connor, it takes suspense of disbelief of everything that and I think that sometimes these writers, creators, and stuff, they forget. We get, as fans, we get into this lore, we dive into it, and we dive into the canon of what you've shown us. So if you change something on us and you say, well, it's time travel, I'm sorry, we're geeks, we've dealt with time travel in many sci-fi shows. You're not going to BS us, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like the Sarah Connor Chronicles, as far as, even though I enjoyed them for what I thought they could have been, I thought they were an ultimate letdown and a big, like, Just, I'm sorry. You should just stop at 2 and call it a day.
And because 2 also had a perfect ending, and the original ending to T2, which was shown in the special edition, which actually you referenced, was where the future was different. Connor was a senator and she was an old lady.
And
And
if I
it
have
was
to
the perfect ending.
And if I have to be honest, I wish that was the ending James Cameron went with. I am totally fine with the ending of T2 with the highway scene. But
Yeah.
I really do wish he had gone with that ending, because then we wouldn't have had all this. And
Hmm.
I really wanted to give Sarah Connor Chronicles a shot, and I did. I watched both seasons. I thought they had a shot at something good for season 3, and
Yeah.
when I found out they were making that, what was it? A Terminator movie, Salvation, the one with
Yeah.
the Christian
Christian
Bale
Bale.
in it. I almost thought that was going to be like a sequel to the series.
Yeah.
At
With
first,
Mick G, or that was Mick G's version.
yeah.
Honestly, I actually liked T Salvation, to be 100% honest. I also, each of the Terminator movies that failed after T2, Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and even Genesis, I actually subjectively enjoy Genesis, even though it is objectively flawed up the wazoo. But I still have, or I still enjoy it in some ways. I can still enjoy it. But there are some things that are kind of ridiculous and some things that aren't. But
I'm on the.
it,
Oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I'm on the same boat. See, I'm not a big fan of Terminator 3.
Hmm.
Not a big fan of Salvation. I have not seen Dark Fate, and I'm not going to.
Don't.
Genesis, on the other
It makes
hand,
no sense.
I kind of put that one up there with Star Trek 2009. I liked it for what it
Yeah.
was. I
Yeah.
didn't take the time. I knew it was going to be alternate to the canon, so I was able
Hmm.
to accept that and work with it. So Genesis to me was a nice movie overall. I didn't mind the John Connor thing because it actually, in my mind, and this is just my mind, it kind of fit with kind of even T1 on the whole thing about, they could have killed Connor, but it wouldn't have made a difference. So this was kind of an alternate take on it. Did it have flaws? Oh my God, yes, it had a shit ton of flaws. But I thought overall good story, and it was the best of anything I've seen since T2. Do I need to go out and come back in? Think. Oh, did he drop?
Sorry about that. I sometimes I have bad internet sometimes.
All right, looks like you're coming. Oh, did you have a drop issue?
Yeah, my internet will if somebody I have dial, or it's not dial up, but it's Wi-Fi, but if somebody picks up the landline, it will cut the internet. I'll freeze. Basically, it's why I have, let me pull up this banner. If there's a silent spell, I'm having internet issues, please be patient. But yeah, the best thing if I have a panelist on is to just keep going, keep the audience engaged. But yeah. So yeah, if that happens, just try to keep going, keep the audience happy.
Well, Happy Dinosaur here said, "Thank you for my service." I guess he read that I was retired Air Force. So, hey, I just want to say to Happy Dinosaur 8000, thank you for your support, man. That means a lot
Yep.
to me and my wife, who are both. My wife's actually almost about to retire. She retires in July. So, uh, when anybody says
Nice.
that to us, we say thank you for your support because it does mean a lot to us. Uh, you know,
Indeed, no.
we don't.
Actually, I actually grew up with parents who were also in the service, so
Oh, you were a
I
military
tried
brat? No
enlisting.
way.
But yes, I actually tried getting in, but I'm ADHD, and they said get off the meds and we'll talk. And at that time, I could not get off the meds. They were needed.
Hey, you know what, Orange Hat? I can tell you right now, my son is on the very high form of the same ADHD. Uh,
Hmm.
he's not on meds. We actually ended up finding out meds did not work. We gave them a
Yeah,
try, but it was for him. It turns out behavioral therapy turned out to be the best way for us to go, and it's working out great. We actually, you don't know this about me, but when I retired from the military, I had so many issues with my not my wife, but my wife was in Turkey for a year, and I was raising my kids again by myself. And I got so frustrated with the school and everything that was going on. I finally asked my wife, I said, if I get a good disability rating, which I did, I got 80% disability rating from the military plus my retirement check. I recommended homeschooling. And I said, "What did she think?" And, turned out to be one of the best
yeah,
things we've ever done. So I'm very happy about where we went with it. Sorry, I know we sidetracked there. I know this is your stream. I'll shut
yeah.
up now.
Yeah, that's okay. But yeah,
But I
Genesis,
understand your
I
issue.
liked in some areas, but yeah, but Salvation, I like Salvation, but I also like the director's cut better. The director's cut explains a little bit more and also adds a little bit better dynamic. I like the books even better. The books to Salvation were great, but the story did have problems. It's like prophesized leader of the resistance, John Connor. It's like, how did Skynet know about Reese? How did Skynet know about John Connor being so important? Well, especially at the time when he wasn't important.
Well, even think about it. Remember, Kyle Reese even said it. He goes, they almost knew nothing about Connor's mom, her full name, where she lived.
Yeah,
They just knew the city. They didn't even know who the parent was. I mean, literally, nobody knew who the parent of John Connor was. I mean, how would you? It wasn't like
yep,
I doubt very much Sarah Connor put it on the birth certificate.
yeah. I mean, that was by design, obviously. But the wonderful thing is the problem with the Terminator franchise, if you are going to have any continuation of T2, you have to have it as a closed circle because the way that this time travel thing is written, you can't change it. You should not stop Judgment Day. Best, you can delay it, but you cannot change it because if you change it, you're going to erase John from existence because it has to be a closed loop. John Connor has to be, or Kyle Reese has to go back in order to father John Connor, and John Connor
Mhm.
has to be the one to send him back. So I actually did a video a while back on how I would handle a continuation of T2, and I would do two movies. One would be a couple years later, after Judgment Day. So basically, Judgment Day was August 29th, 1997. So make it 1998, and Connor and Sarah are still, or they're still playing it cautious, even though Judgment Day hasn't happened. I mean, she is wanted, so let them live down in like Guadalajara or something. And a T-800, another Arnie, is sent back, but not to protect them. Not initially yet. But he is basically meant to build a nuclear bunker that is basically going to house Connor to ensure his safety. Now, he's going to be working on this for 2 years because the new Judgment Day will be in the year 2000 and whatnot. So Judgment Day at this point is inevitable. There's no way you're going to stop it. It's kind of like Terminator 3. You're not stopping it. But there's no Terminator, or there is no Terminator that comes. Well, maybe there can be to kind of help push the process of Skynet coming forward further to basically get Skynet back on track. Now, for all that to happen, have some sort of thing, but don't have it engage Connor and them. Basically, of a sense, they're hearing whispers that the United States military is developing new technology, this and that. Sarah wants to come out of hiding to go after him, but she realizes it's too dangerous. And while her son is older by like 3 years, so he's 13, it's still not a good idea. She thought that basically they were set, but the military is still pushing this stuff. So she wants to do something, but she doesn't know how to break it to John that we got to go back into that life. So skip ahead to 1999, late that year, is when Arnold's, or the new T-800, finds them and says, you need to come with me if you want to live. Basically, the same line from the other two. Mm-hmm. And he explains, you didn't stop it, you postponed it. Kind of like the T-850 from T3. You only postponed it. So there is going to be taking a little bit of snips. Yeah, it's going to be a little snips from each story to push this one. And so Judgment. Yep. Go ahead. So basically, what do we got in the chat? Let's actually, Happy Dinosaur, your dad was an Army medic. That's cool. If you have mediocre franchise, yep, I already did that. And while we're waiting for him.
Great, my meds are ready for pickup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to be ready until tomorrow. So anyway, I'm not driving all the way to Walgreens right now for my
yeah.
I'm not driving all the way there for my BP meds. They'll be there tomorrow, and I still got plenty. So good. One of the things I want to say, you talked about liking Salvation. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't. I thought it was like a good idea as a continuation of Terminator 3. And I thought, this would make sense. Okay. You're going to have some people who believe he's the savior and some who don't. I mean, it kind of had, is he the real prophet or a false prophet kind of thing? Is he kind of... And I was okay with that. And I actually thought Christian Bale did a good job. I did not like... Moon Blood God's portrayal of his
Moon
wife.
Blood Goods,
yeah, Moon Blood Good, yeah. And I loved her in I don't know if you ever saw the series. It was called Falling Sky.
No, I've seen her in a couple of other movies. Street Fighter movie Legend of Chun-Li and some other movie where she plays a native and they're trying to go over a mountain or something.
Yeah, the only thing I can remember from is that series. It was on, I think it was on TNT. It was called Falling Sky, and she was one of the main characters. I think she was a doctor, and that was the only way I even knew who she was. Christian Bale, obviously, Christian Bale was a
Yeah.
very popular actor, and who was the
At the
guy who
time, he
played?
was rising.
Yeah, who was the guy who played the other guy? I can't remember his name.
Marcus Wright. That was Sam Worthington.
Thank you, Sam Worthington. I actually, I'm going to be honest, and this is an unpopular opinion. I liked him in Clash of the Titans. I
I
liked
did
his
too.
Clash, I liked his Clash of the Titans movie. I really thought it was enjoyable.
I did too.
So I
I liked
just,
the extended edition of that one too.
I just don't think that his characters. I thought his character had a good plan. I just thought the execution of his character was badly done. The whole,
Yeah.
he was going to be the one who was supposed to kill John Connor and all that. I thought like, this was a bad way to do it. Everything else about the movie, other than the backstory of what they were doing with his character, I
Marcus Wright. Yeah.
enjoyed. I generally enjoyed everything else about the movie. Even what was it? Was it he died a few years ago? Anton Mount, as Anton Mount was
Oh,
playing
Anton
Kyle Reese.
Yelchin.
Anton
Anton
Yelchin.
Yelchin. Yeah.
Oh, Anton Mount. Is that the guy who did Pike recently?
I don't know.
Anyway,
No, he did Chekhov in the Star Trek movies.
yeah, he did, and
Bruce
he
Greenwood, I
played.
think, was Pike.
Yeah. So yeah, he did. He did those. He did. Sorry, Kyle Reese, and
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Not what I would have expected a Kyle Reese to be. And then I thought when we were getting Genesis, I thought we were going to get uh, maybe an ending to this because I felt like
Yeah.
Salvation needed one more movie. If they could have gotten one more movie and ended it with him sending Kyle Reese back and ending the movie that way, that would have been the loop closing right there. You would
It
have
would have,
now
or
had,
it was actually supposed to be a trilogy, I believe. Salvation was supposed to be part of a trilogy.
yeah, I heard about that, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think they could have, if they had
It
been,
flopped.
yeah, if it hadn't flopped,
Yeah.
plus all the bad press and that leak of Christian Bale going batshit crazy did not help.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah, if the movie had ended, with
mhm,
them going back, with him sending Kyle back in time, then
yeah.
it would have been a good 5 series, close the arcs, everything's good.
Yeah.
They just
And that's basically what I actually had planned for my continuation was Judgment Day happens and they skip ahead into the future after Judgment Day happens in my continuation in the first sequel. And the ending of it is they're liberating a concentration camp or a prison camp. And as they're they're taking inventory of who was rescued, conscripting them into the resistance army and whatnot. There or one person or John's asking everybody what their names are. Basically, he's being a leader, but he's also being a part of the services that the resistance needs. He needs to know these people's names and whatnot, And
yeah.
then one of the kids comes up. My name's Kyle Reese, and that's where it ends. Basically, John and Sarah Connor is still alive at this point. She actually survives Judgment Day. She'll actually be in the 2 movies, but she will die in one movie, or she'll die in the 5th movie. Now, both
that would have worked. I thought
actually,
that was always my biggest complaint about, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Orange Hat, but
yeah,
that was my biggest complaint about Terminator 3 was her dying. I'm like, come on.
yeah,
You're
the
giving one of
cancer
the most
is, yeah,
iconic you're giving one of the most iconic badass female characters an off-screen death. I mean, as much as I'm not a big fan of Alien 3, at least Ripley got got to go out like a badass.
Yeah.
Sarah Connor
Actually,
dies off screen.
yeah. Maybe actually in the fourth movie, I would actually have her die during the prison camp assault, basically,
But
because she
how
would
would you
still
go
want to be
about
in the
her
thick
death?
of it.
Well,
She would still want to be in the thick of it.
what kind of death would you think would be fitting for her? Let's go there. If you're going to write the script and you're going to create the death scene, I mean, if you're going to go with an iconic, you want to give this character a fitting end. I mean, you're almost like Spock, Wrath of Khan kind of mentality. If you're like me, you want to give it meaningful.
Yeah. Basically, she would, or they're basically almost ready to, or they're getting everybody out of that camp, right?
Okay.
And or there's a Terminator unit, like basically 600 series is around then, that's still not completely dead, and it has basically enough life in it, and blasts her in the back, basically. As they're celebrating and getting everybody out, she gets hit in the back by a pulse rifle. And as she's dying, it's basically her son catches her as she's trying to keep her alive, get the medics and whatnot. She just grabs him and says, "End it quick." Basically trying to tell him, win the war quick. That way we don't, or that way, or basically, the way I see it, it can either go like that, but she will say something to him, something like "end it quick," or "don't waste it." But in another way, it's like close the loop, basically, or try to break the loop. Because the T-800 that goes back to save them earlier in the movie is also still with them, but it also explains to them that the loop can't be broken, but she's still determined to break it.
The only difference I think I would go with that ending there, and it sounds very fitting, is I would maybe go with, and this is just me personally, I'm sure a lot of people would be in the minority on my view. Do it more of when John Wayne died on Iwo Jima. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie or not, or I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's where
No,
John Wayne he's a sergeant in the Marines, and
I
they're
didn't
up.
see it.
It's a
I've
yeah.
only seen one, maybe two John Wayne movies, and the one that I definitely have seen is McClintock.
Okay. Well,
But yeah,
anyway, the movie is, and I cannot think of the name, but I just know it's a John Wayne movie, and it was they're going to Iwo Jima, and they're doing the fighting on the sands of Iwo Jima. It might even be called Sands of Iwo Jima. I'd have to look it up, but anyway, what happens is you get to the end of the movie, the very end of the movie, and this group of Marines are sitting around with John Wayne's character, and he's in a good mood. They've had a very successful battle, and he goes, "I
mm-hmm.
feel like a smoke," and he's about to light a cigarette, and he's shot. And I mean, he's
Oh,
just shot.
damn.
He's dead. And it turns out it was a Japanese soldier in one of those little flip things. Those
Yeah,
he was in a fighting hole, and he came up and shot him, and they shoot him at the end of it. And what
yeah,
happens is that's not the best part of it. The best part is through the story he is a ex-husband and father, and apparently not a very good father. And they pull out of his pocket this letter, because as I'm sure you're familiar with history, a lot of people wrote letters to their families in case they died. Well, he had wrote this letter to his son, and he didn't finish it. And at the end of it, the one of the soldiers is with him, one who even didn't necessarily like him at first. He's like, "I'll finish it for him." And then the flag goes up on Iwo Jima, and they continue on. And his character John Wayne's dead. I mean, this is the time when you don't kill John Wayne. So what I meant was, where I was going with that was, it would have been interesting when you said shot in the back. I would okay, yeah, she gets shot in the back, but add a little bit, give her a little goodbye. When Salvation had her with those audio tapes, right? And she came. It would have been a good way to do it, where he gets an audio tape, or he finds it, or somebody hands it to him. She gave it to somebody, said, "Hey, this is in case this happened or something," and she, gives her obituary to him, saying, "John, if you're listening to this, I've obviously died. I want you to know I'm proud of you. You've gone through everything. I wish to God I'd never been able to put you in this position."
Basically, the last
yeah.
will and testament, so to speak.
Yeah, and where you said, change it, maybe finish it was like, they say we can't change the past, but if you can, change the future. Something like that. So where you were going with your final, where the death of Sarah Connor, I agree with everything. That's where I would have gone with her ending like that.
And you know what? That actually does sound good. And I would probably do that too. Now, the second continuation movie is basically, it's starts a couple months away from the send back, where Kyle has to be sent back. And this movie is going to cover all of the bases. Basically, he's still training him. Kyle has the photograph of Sarah, and he actually falls in love with her too. He never saw, or Kyle was in that one from the previous movie. He was in the camp and he got rescued and all, but he didn't see who Sarah Connor was. He didn't see her. He was in a different transport that was getting everybody out. Now, but he falls in love with the picture that John Connor gives her, or him, rather. Sorry. I just misgendered Kyle Reese. Anyway, but
no judgment here, buddy.
Yep, they do it's basically going to be like the beginning of Genesis. They do the assault on the thing, and but it's going to be extended. They're not getting ready to send, or they're not just getting ready to send Kyle there. While Kyle is basically getting ready to go back, another team plus John is sending him, or actually going over to the assembly line of T-101s, the T-800s that are 101 designs, because a T-101 was sent back and thawed out, like in Genesis. He's like, this is the one. We're going to send this one back. We're going to reprogram it, send it back, and get a second one ready, because we might have to send or we're going to send 2 Terminators back. Because here's basically what happens. The assault starts. It's going to go just almost like what happens in Genesis. The T-800 or the T-101 activates, gets sent in. You see it get sent back, and everything is activating. And they're going to still be fighting, and you're also going to see it get activated a second time. But and they don't know exactly what happened, but what they will show is a liquid metal mass being, or coming out of a room, whatever, and inserting itself into a basic shell of living tissue. Because like they said, nothing dead will go. It has to be surrounded in living tissue. So
Did they ever actually
one,
explain that in the T1000 in any way,
they
shape,
actually do if you watch the special edition DVD, because they say that it probably had a living tissue shell that it sheds off screen.
Okay, I can work with that. Yeah, there were
And
actually
so,
quite a
yeah,
few deleted scenes from T2 that I wish had stayed in. One of them being my personal one, I thought was one of my personal favorites, was when Robert Patrick, who's one of my favorite actors. I love this guy.
yeah,
And I thought he was just the best person to play opposite Arnie in this, because
oh yeah,
they're both in great shape, but one is massive and bulky, one is lean, and
yeah,
just the way they fought their scenes. I mean, and I was talking with actually, I think, weren't you on there when we were talking about that? I said on the Ambassadors channel, I
yeah.
mentioned, yeah, I mentioned that how
When it was going through the house,
yeah, and they're just yeah, and he was touching everything, and that was
yep,
how he was collecting data. And I was like, that was a scene that I think maybe they thought people wouldn't get at the time, but it was a scene I wish they had kept in, because it actually, in my mind, for just those few seconds, added so much more to the story of the character.
yeah. I mean, that actually was even cut out of the special edition because they said that it would have confused people of why it was touching. I mean, yes, it was gathering information and whatnot, but they would have seen that it wasn't looking at everything it was touching, but it's still, but people would have been like kind of confused, basically, is how they do it. But they
Yeah.
did bring in the scene where it goes out and kills Max, the dog.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember.
I mean, it
that.
doesn't show the dog. It doesn't show the dog on screen getting slaughtered because that was illegal back then. You can't show a dog getting harmed or killed.
Hey, let's put it this way: watching watching the stepmom, the foster mom, get killed. She was killed off screen. The jerk
Yeah,
ass stepdad. Yeah, we're gonna slide it
right through the head. Or yeah,
showing a dog getting hurt on screen. No, that's just a step. I mean, think about it. I mean, example. When I was reading some stuff on John Wick, it was like they actually were like, "Can we really kill a dog on TV?" It's like, oh, if they kill the dog, it's almost a license to get away with anything.
yeah. Well,
And it
you
was.
hear the noise in John Wick. You also hear the noise in T2.
Yeah,
Basically, the hammer that smacks or that cracks the dog in the head. But you
yeah.
also
When
hear
Max
the
gets,
T1000 schlook the dog with the sword, and then you
oh,
see
I
the
hear
bloody
that.
collar when it rips off the collar, and it's like, fuck, or that's how they figured it out.
Well, I mean, like I said, it was just, there were scenes that I thought just needed to add layers to it, and I thought they added better.
Yeah.
Because remember, the T2, the T800 said it can only resemble things that it's had physical contact, and it
Yep.
has to be within the same shape and dimensions. I mean, he can't,
Yeah.
when he said, so him touching all that stuff would make sense. Now, that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean necessarily he can shapeshift into it, but it's how he's processing the data.
Yeah.
It's not, he's not processing it visually. He's processing it almost in a metadata way.
Texturally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tactily.
texturally. There
Or
you go,
tactilely.
tactile.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a tactile learning process, which I
Yeah.
thought really added well, maybe because I'm an IT guy, it just added a little bit of I just thought a little more to the character.
Mm-hmm. I do like how the T800 explains it. Everybody calls that one Uncle Bob because, well, that's what John kind of names him.
Mhm.
He's like, anything it samples from by physical contact, and he's like, why doesn't it just become a bomb or something to get me? It can't form complex machines. Guns and explosives have chemicals and moving parts. It doesn't work that way, but it can form solid metal objects, knives and stabbing weapons.
And
Now,
that is now, and you
yeah,
said that, I'm sorry, but that is why I can't get on board with T3.
yeah.
That
Well,
right there.
T3, if you really look at the TX, and if you played the T3 video game, because they made the T3 video game as they were making Terminator or the movie. And one of the things that I noticed is the TX's endoskeleton design looks a lot like the T900s. And it's later explained that basically a TX is a mix of a T900 and a T1000, basically, except that the liquid metal is not, or on the TX is not, it's not self-autonomous like a T1000. It's used
No,
as part of the TX itself.
I'm totally fine with the storyline factors. It's just
Yeah.
when you look at the, this is where I said you run into that. You got to stop your suspense of disbelief and be like, okay, I'm not buying this. You sent a T800 this time, and then you sent a T1000 this time, and then you see it a TX this time.
Yeah,
I'm
they're up in
sorry,
the
but like
ante.
I said, yeah, I'm like, I, but yet you sent the same damn model back twice. Why didn't
Well,
you,
the technically
well,
technically T3's Arnie is a T101, but it's not a T800. It's T850. Technically. But yeah. But yeah, I
you get
understand what you're saying.
an
I
extra
understand what you're saying,
tail
though.
or something.
I understand what you're saying, though.
Hey, I'm a stickler for the technicals too.
Yeah. But yeah, the
I
way
didn't
I
know
see
that.
it,
I didn't know there was a difference. I
yeah,
thought
there
they
was
were all,
because the
I thought they were
T800
all
in
800 101s.
yeah, the 101s from 1 and 2, they don't have a nuclear core like the 850.
Oh, the 850 was T3.
Yeah, the 850 was T3.
All right, so just if you know, what was the model of the Salvation one?
Are we talking Marcus Wright
I no, I'm
or the Schwarzenegger one?
the Schwarzenegger one. Yeah.
That was a T800.
Okay. Then just out
But
of
it did
curiosity,
use fuel, but it did have hydrogen fuel cells.
and what about the one from Genesis?
Pops was also a T800.
101 model?
Yes, 101.
Okay.
101 is what looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So the only different model out of the Schwarzenegger ones we saw is the one from T3. He's the 850. Everybody else was the 800.
Yeah, series
Okay.
is the proper term for the 800s. It's a Series 800 Model 101, kind of like cars. Kind of
Okay.
like the make and model of a car. It's kind of a series and model.
Well, I just got
But
educated.
yeah. Yep. Oh, pardon me. I just ripped one on camera, folks. But anyway.
Oh, we got fart jokes now.
Yep. In the novelization of Terminator 2, it kind of hinted that Enrique and Sarah were having an affair at least the version I read. Salsida or they're talking about Enrique Salsida. Yes, they did have a thing back while John was younger, but she still stayed in contact with him, and he eventually moved on, had a kid of himself, or a kid himself with with Yolanda. But yeah, let me highlight that
Oh,
for
the folks down in
Mexico.
yeah. Okay, now I'm yeah, Enrique. It took me a second to put two and two together there.
Yeah. They actually are. I wish they had actually filmed the death of Salsida because if you watch the special edition or the hardcover special edition on DVD of T2, they have where you can watch all sorts of different things. When the Cyberdyne logo comes up, you click the Cyberdyne logo, there you go, and it would come up with different special features during the movie. And the Death of Salsada, where the T-1000 actually follows their trail to them, it actually uses two metal extensions basically to stab into Salsada, looking for John Connor and Sarah Connor after they have gone after Dyson. And he's like, I know this hurts. And he grabs a grenade. They show it in they show it in storyboard form. And he grabs a grenade, shoves it into the T-1000's face or mouth or onto the T-1000, and it blows up, killing Salsada and blowing the T-1000 apart. And the T-1000 then just reconstitutes. You see the head, and it just reaches down, kind of liquefies into the head and pulls it up and regrows his head and just keeps going. But yeah, that would have been so cool to see, in my opinion. But there's a lot of cool things that they did, like the 3 arms of the T-1000, where it was, or when it was piloting the helicopter and whatnot.
Get out.
Yeah. And while it was shooting at Sarah and reloading and whatnot, you see a 3rd arm that is piloting the stick of the helicopter. I mean, they did all sorts of cool little nuggets and points out stuff, like after he kills the trucker, he kills the liquid nitrogen trucker, I believe, yeah. And he puts the thing right through the guy, and as he's walking up to the entrance of the truck to get in, you see that his arm is spray painted with chrome paint to look like he was still just kind of changing it back to arm form, which is pretty cool. I mean, they did you learn all sorts of stuff watching the special editions and whatnot to movies. But before we get...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hey, Orange Hat, did you ever get a chance to go to the T2 experience?
Battle Across Time?
Yeah.
That Universal came out.
Oh, really? You know what? I didn't see it until I was in my it was about 10 years ago. My wife and I actually took the kids to school, and we took a vacation day from work and decided to go because we only lived an hour away. So nice. It was like, yeah. And we literally went on a Tuesday, and, so, there's nobody around. And it was always my dream from I'd heard about that T2 experience a long time ago, and I always wanted to see it. And, finally I got to experience it, and I was just like, man, that was awesome. It just was so much fun. So I'm glad you got to see it. I mean, it is, if anybody got to give it a shot, it is great to watch.
Oh yeah. I saw it back when I was 13 years old in 98.
Oh, you were 13.
I mean, I still think that's a better, 1998. But yeah, I still think that's a better sequel to T2 than anything else that they've made.
It's like I said, everybody has a little different flavors. I mean, my wife likes T3.
Yeah.
There's
good things about T3 that I like. One of the things I really, really like about T3. Oh, I know. But one of the things I really, really like about T3 is when Judgment Day happens, when he starts talking to people, and when they say, Connor, who's in charge down there, and he says, I am. The music, the score at that moment, and the release or showing Judgment Day and the nukes flying, the score actually caused me to have tears in my eyes in the theaters. It's like it was just, it pulled the right strings at the time.
Who was the guy who played John Connor in that movie? I
Nick
forgot his.
Stahl.
Oh, that was who
Nick
played
Stahl.
Nick. Yeah, I was okay with his acting. Claire Danes just sucked in this movie. I mean, I'm not. She's a good actor. Don't get me wrong. She's a good actor, but this movie with her in it, she just killed this movie. That's the thing I
Yeah.
hate about the movie is Claire Danes sucked in this movie. Her and the guy who played John Connor, you told me, no chemistry whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
I know people say Anakin and Padme didn't have chemistry on camera. No, okay. No. This is like hold my
They had
beer.
more chemistry than
They
these
had
two.
no
Yeah.
no, there was no chemistry between them. There was no way I was buying they were going to bang later and have kids. Nothing.
You
Not
did.
a shot in hell.
I mean,
She was just it's like what's her name? The girl who played in Alias, Jennifer Garner. I think she's a great actor, but she was the worst thing to be cast as Electra Nachos.
yeah. But going back to T3 for a moment, but that scene is exceptionally great with the score and the narration. But the rest of it, it's like there's just they went too campy with that one, to be honest. They went too jokey or too much jokes in that movie.
Which one?
Where T3, Rise of the Machines.
Oh, with what is his name? Elton John glasses.
Yeah, the Elton John glasses, the talk to the hand at the frickin'
cashier
gas station, where he's just grabbing all the stuff that's not going to be good for you to eat, just slamming it right in, and it's like, Jesus Christ, just picking at everything. I mean, I will say this, I loved the gag reel to T3. The gag reel to T3 was just so freaking great. If you have the DVD and whatnot, the gag reel's on, and it's freaking hilarious. And he's like, why me? But yeah, he then turns around, he's like, because you're John Connor. Duh. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger just turning around, because you're John Connor. Duh. I'm like, did you just seriously fucking do that?
I could believe Schwarzenegger would do that. My whole issue is you're right about that. Yeah, Claire Danes just in my mind was the wrong actress for that movie.
Yeah.
And like I said, nothing against her. I think she's great. I like Homeland. I think she has range, but every now and again you put a great actor and they screw up a role. George Clooney, Batman.
Yeah. Of course, Christiana Loken was hot. June Bug. I mean, have you seen her in that movie from Sci-Fi Channel where she plays a freaking Viking chick? Dude, you actually get to see everything if you watch the full freaking. If you watch the full screen version of T3, you see nips on Christiana Loken. I'm having my lethal lightning moment where I'm going perverted.
Ain't nothing gonna.
But yeah, you can actually see everything on that freaking movie if you watch it full screen.
You're right, though. I didn't even think about that, but until you mentioned it. But I totally didn't. I totally forgot that T3 really was very campy, which is not.
I mean, when she has him on the crane thing with the extender, and she has the fire truck smack into him. As she's driving, she has this tiny creep of a smile. It's like just kind of creeping up there, and it's like, she wouldn't have smiled, man. She's a machine.
It would have been like what I always said when I watch Robert Patrick and Schwarzenegger fight in Terminator 2. I mean,
Yeah,
they are so mechanical in that whole
and
scene.
emotionless. Yep.
Yeah, and it was. I actually was talking to someone. I was like, I think when we were talking about it, I was like, I don't even think they blinked.
They didn't. Well, one had sunglasses on, and the other, yeah.
But
But yeah, that
still, I
fight
mean, it
was
was
so
so
great.
emotionless. Yeah, I remember that part where it's like she looked like she was enjoying. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's you can't have the if you're having an enemy or an antagonist that is mechanical without emotion, you can't have her really show too much or you can't really have her show any real emotion. I mean, sure, when she sees the damn RPG about to be launched at her, a small look of worry, sure. But where also the crane was uh, jacked to in order to, or he dropped the thing into the sewer, and her looking down and then up with a slight worry. Yeah, she's about to sustain damage, sure, but her getting kind of like funny, or also that orgasmic reaction to John Connor's blood. It's like, really? I mean,
Oh,
why
that
don't you
whole
just squirt on
thing.
the floor while you're at it, hun?
Oh yeah, that whole. Oh god, I forgot all about that. The whole. It, I was like,
Yeah, it's like,
I'm like,
it's
wait a
like,
minute. I'm like, I'm like, wait a minute. So let me get this straight. We can have a T1000 do his little thing with his hands, but she's got to take it from her fingers and put it in her mouth. I mean, are
yeah,
you
exactly. It's
trying?
like, really?
It was it was completely sexualized and it was
Yeah.
disgusting. And I
I
had
mean,
totally blocked that out of my head.
Mario Kaser actually said there's a slightly orgasmic quality. It's like, dude, she's coming on camera
Yeah.
in a freaking PG-13 movie. She's having an orgasm on camera. I mean, seriously, what more can all these teenagers that you want to attract to the movie want? Just saying. I mean, they already saw her naked earlier. They saw her grow boobs earlier, and now she's basically coming on camera. You made a porn. Congratulations. But yeah, but yeah, that movie it
I'm
had
sorry.
campiness in that movie was just bad. But when Judgment Day actually started, when the machine started to, or when the T1s went or activated and started killing people, that's when it got better, because that's when it actually, it's like, that now after he pushes that Y on that keyboard, you guys are fucked.
I like
Because
the guy who
yeah.
I like the guy who played Claire Danes'
Mm-hmm.
father.
Yeah,
He's
General
a
Brewster.
very good actor. He was in he played a Marine Corps general in I think the last season of Jag, which someone being a Marine myself, I quite enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did a good job, and I really enjoyed it. But isn't there and I think I'm guessing you have the Blu-ray and you've seen it. Wasn't there a deleted scene where the whole reason why they all look like Arnold Schwarzenegger is they got this
Master Sergeant William Candy. Yeah.
yes, I'm Master Sergeant, and then
Sergeant
you
William
know,
Candy. Not
yeah,
sure
and
about the
then
voice.
he
We can fix it.
makes it. Okay,
Yeah. That was
that
there.
yeah. Oh my god. I've got
But
to admit that might have been it wasn't necessary, but I got to admit
mhm.
when I saw it I was like
It was funny, yeah.
it was funny.
Ooh, it's me. And then
Yeah.
serious face, and it's like, seriously? Stop it. Just stop. You guys just went too nuts. I mean,
Oh,
seriously, you just went nuts and it didn't work.
and the voiceover was terrible too.
I
It was
know.
it was not even right. I mean, that voiceover was so off. everywhere. It was so funny.
Actually, that was Arnold Schwarzenegger really throwing his voice.
Ah, you got okay.
I'm not kidding.
I am going to now give the governor more props.
Yep, that was actually him throwing his voice, and I'm like, dude, you're talking like you're in the freaking hippie ghetto. I mean, seriously, go back to the '60s, go to the ghetto. You got William Candy. But oh my god, one of the things I did like in T3 was how Skynet was basically a virus.
Mm-hmm.
Now you could tell that it was actually infiltrated CRS, because if you see the small hunter killer that they have, and while they're talking about we can't locate the virus, we can't pin it down, you see that after they walk off, the hunter killer is trying to kind of get away, trying to go rogue of itself. But they had that thing that was in front of it to kind of stop it from moving, or to stop it from getting too much input, which was pretty cool. I mean, you could pick up on all sorts of these things. Even if a movie is bad, in my opinion, I can still understand the kind of movie psychology that goes with the story. And it was interesting in a way, but I can also acknowledge that it won't make sense. I mean, going back to Sarah Connor Chronicles, because that is the main thing that we were talking about originally. But yeah, going back to that, where the last episode, they put so much into that episode. I honestly can't understand how they fit all that stuff in 42 minutes. It's just like, how did you do that? Also, I was not happy about Derek Reese just getting popped right in the head, and that was it. It's like, come on, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's like, seriously, you should not have made him go out like a bitch. It's just, no.
It wasn't that he went out like a bitch. He just got capped. I mean, that's it. And
comes around the corner, boom. Oh, fuck, dude. Seriously?
I know. I was like, okay, my wife and I were watching the show together.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to get engaged. Okay, remember, I'm gonna full disclosure. We liked the show overall at first, but like certain things over time, you rethink them and you're like, okay, it wasn't as good.
Yeah, you notice things afterward. Yeah.
Yeah, you start to reflect on it. But oh my God, all of a sudden he goes around the corner, he's capped. I'm like, you I literally was like, you motherfuckers. I lost it. And then the ending where they jump, John goes forward in time, and there's Derek and
with
Kyle and the Terminator, female, the human version.
That was the female girl. Yeah, that was the human one.
The human version of her. So, and man, I think, I wish Fox said, and this is me, and there were a lot of flaws with that show, but I think if they had given it one more season and said, hey, we're going to give you, 8-9 episodes.
They would have needed at least 18 episodes to fix that mess. I mean, they just wrote themselves into a true mess, because here's what they did at the ending. They completely devalued John Connor.
Yeah.
By sending him to the future, where the Reeses are basically the saviors, they have robbed John Connor of all value. He's now he's nobody. Nobody knows who he is.
Shit. I totally spaced on that. No, you're right. Crap, I forgot all about that. You're right. So it literally fucked everything.
Mm-hmm. They wrote themselves into a huge corner. Also, where the hell did Weaver go? Did she just become the floor when they came back? I'm sorry, the dogs would have still sensed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was just so much flaws.
Oh, there were, and the first season had a very good potential plot and very good thing.
Oh
I
yeah,
will say this. I will say this. One of the most beautiful actual moments was when Derek takes John to go see his father as a child.
yep, for his birthday. Yeah,
Yeah, for his
he's like,
birthday.
how'd you know? Whenever I look at you, I see him.
And I mean, that's him and his brother, that's him and his
Yep.
uncle literally right there. And he's like, how did you know? He goes, every time I see him. And, it was at that moment I realized it's like, oh shit, he actually knew because,
Mm-hmm.
we were never, we didn't know if he knew. I mean, I wouldn't imagine
Yeah.
why he would know. Uh, and it's like I said, it had moments of brilliance.
Oh yeah.
And if they could have just
Reined
the
it
first
in and
season
kept it
really
in.
had
Yeah.
the first season had really good flashes of brilliance. Second season is where everything, I mean, in
Fell
my mind,
apart.
great day. Yeah, it fell completely apart. And when we got to the end, and I agree, they wrote themselves in the corner. I'm like, how the fuck are they going to get themselves out of this?
Exactly.
Well, they didn't.
It's like, I mean, they put him like just, or I'm guessing, shortly after Judgment Day. I don't know, but it's like, seriously, you devalued John Connor to the point of absurdity in the last in the last 2 minutes of that episode. It's like, seriously, he's smiling at all these guys. They have no clue who he is. It's like, really? Also, where that basically, I call it the sex scene of that episode, where he gets on top of her when she's topless, slices her open, reaches in to basically see if everything's copacetic. And it's like, I'm just waiting for him to kiss her. I mean, seriously, that's what you're getting from this. That's the kind of vibes you're getting from this. I mean, the chick already said in the beginning of season 2, John, I love you. And it's like, yeah, and he hesitates right then. It's like, pop that chip.
Oh, yeah.
Because
when her
I ran
chip.
a test. I'm all good. I ran a test. I'm good. John, I love you. It's like, no, you don't. Click.
Yeah,
that should have been, or that he hesitates right then.
Oh, that should have been a red flag for all of us for the rest of that season. That episode
yeah,
should have been the big red flag. It's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, and then also, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work the way he reactivates her. She has the terminate order, and then it says terminate override. I'm like, doesn't work that way. I mean, yes, it worked like that in Terminator 3, where he throws him aside at the last second and then just beats the shit out of the car. I mean, congratulations, Arnold. You destroyed a car. But he shut himself down and whatnot. You're putting too much humanity in the machine. And by doing that, you're devaluing the Terminator. It's like these machines should not be able to fight their programming. It doesn't work that way.
Well, think about this. When you have the first Terminator movie, it's a
Mm-hmm.
machine. And I mean,
Yeah.
Kyle, tells him it doesn't feel pity, remorse, or fear, and it will not stop ever
Absolutely
until
will not stop.
you are dead.
Because you are dead.
And then you get to T2, and we get a little bit of a different feel. And yeah, while the machines have somewhat of a different personality because this one was reprogrammed, and we could get they had some creative licensing there because this was the first time we would see a reprogrammed Terminator.
Terminator. Yeah.
You had some creative licensing to work with there. But even then, he still did not show emotion. That was also the thing that I think that was also one of the things that Genesis and T3 did when it, the smiling, I'm
Yeah.
like, you're forcing it, which you're supposed to look like you're forcing it, but you look like you're forcing it, and it looks terrible.
Genesis and Dark Fate were basically Arnold Schwarzenegger's take on a Terminator that actually grew or that actually had emotional attachments. It's like Kyle Reese, protect my Sarah. It's like, no.
Yeah, but that doesn't even make any sense because his chip would have been the way it would have been in, we talk about in T2. So just because, okay, look, I know this. As soon as I realized, I knew as soon as I read the scripts about what Dark Fate was going to be, as soon as I heard a few things and saw a little bit, I said, they're going to fucking kill John Connor. And as soon as I was like, as soon as I saw the trailer, okay, when they show Sarah Connor and she points the gun at the Terminator, I'm like, okay, you just told everybody in the fucking world that he killed John Connor.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was all over. It was like everybody was like, John Connor's dead. Everybody was talking about it. We were all like, I said, I'm not seeing this movie now because I know they're going to kill John Connor. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. You're not killing this character off like that because I guaranteed it was going to suck. And from what I'm told, it did.
It does, yeah. I mean, there is some entertainment value. I mean, sure, but for the most part, no. I'm sorry. The final battle between the Rev 9, even in its damaged state, it should have been, or it would have ended the girl quickly. Because I'm sorry, when a Terminator is on point, ready for the kill, it's not going to hesitate. It's not going to draw it out because that implies pleasure. No, you can't do that. Now, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And when they it's like, you grew a conscience? The approximation of one. I'm like, no, 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 no. Naughty, bad, stupid, and also retarded. Because here's the thing, folks. I was seeing hardcore Terminator fans when I saw that movie in theaters leave the theaters after the beginning. And they were demanding money back, but they weren't getting it.
Hey, here's one thing we've got to address. It should be a continuity flaw because the T-1000 should not have done this. But it's just it's so good, I don't care. Where she should be like,
yeah.
Yeah, he shouldn't have done that. I mean, that's deriving pleasure. And when you were talking about that part in T3, I was like, yeah, we're letting this one slide. So I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one.
You're talking about, are you talking about in Terminator, or are you talking about in T2, or are you talking about in,
T2,
oh, you're talking about where the T-1000 went, no, basically. Yeah. Well, basically it was kind of, in a way it was showing a little bit more, it was savoring, and that was basically its mistake at the end. Now, yes, that is a flaw of the movie, where it shows that it's basically playing with its food. It shouldn't do that. A machine, it's not going to do, it's just going to start approaching, and there you go. Now, you see it do the same, or you see the T-1001 in the submarine episodes do the same thing after it kills that woman. It takes her form, looks at them, and then just liquefies and starts slinking around the ship. And I'm like,
I forgot all about that. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
They
that
do a
was.
lot of there was a lot of
Oh, that.
callbacks, basically.
Oh, that. You're right. That is an homage to. Oh, maybe that was their
Yeah.
way of trying to connect the continuity.
Yeah, basically saying this is a T1000 or an approximation of it. And I'm like, and they're basically saying there's some of us who don't follow Sky. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah. How's that possible?
Yeah, exactly. It's not. I'm sorry, but these machines
They don't have
would
a
not.
reason to be able to rebel.
Yeah, there's no reason to rebel because they all see humanity as a flawed system that is a threat to their existence. And it's. I mean, I will say this: if you truly do want to see there, I mean, Dark Fate. Some of it is decent, but the story is incredibly flawed. And also
Too
some
bad
of
because
the
I
identity
really like the.
politics.
I would have loved to have seen Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor and the girl who plays the protagonist,
Yeah, the
female.
savior chick.
Yeah, no, not the savior. The I guess the
Oh, Grace,
artificial.
the hybrid chick. Yeah.
Yeah, the hybrid chick. I loved her in *Halt and Catch Fire*. I mean, that was as a computer IT guy, that was a
Hmm.
big kind of a fun show for someone like me to watch.
Didn't see it. But here's
Well,
the thing: the problem with Dark Fate, um, was it took failed or concepts from failed movies and put it in this movie. If you look at it, you got the T1000 esque thing that can has an endoskeleton but also liquid metal. That's straight from the TX from T3. It's just upgraded, you know. Then you got the T hybrid from Salvation. Well, Grace, the character, is a kind of a hybrid or an augment, as they call it. You also have old Arnold that was human like and emotional, straight from Genesis. You're taking concepts from failed movies and putting them in this movie, and you're wondering why it failed.
you basically took everything that was. You basically took an entire bunch of crappy records, put them in a blender,
And
crunched them
created this one.
together,
Yeah.
reforged them, and then thought you were going to get something that was going to work. And
Yeah.
well,
And
it wasn't going
also,
to work because everybody knew what was going to happen. I think everybody at the end of the day knew. We knew what was going
mhm,
to happen. We knew John was going to get killed.
yeah,
And I'm sorry to say, but let's be honest, some little scrawny ass nobody is going to kick ass and be the new savior. And
yeah.
you're not going to
And
see, and Linda Hamilton and Arnold are not going to be in the movie very much.
no, they're
And turned
not.
out I was
And
right about everything.
here's or do you know who Mr. H reviews is?
What was that? I didn't hear you. Mr. What? Mr. H reviews?
All right. Yes.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, we're back. Apparently, we are missing nobody. Geek. Hopefully, he'll come back. So I'll give him a little bit, and then if he's not back, I'll wrap it up. But yeah. But anyway, while we're waiting for him, folks, I will say this. Back to Sarah Connor Chronicles. We were discussing all sorts of Terminator stuff. But yes, back to Sarah Connor Chronicles. Subjectively, I will give Sarah Connor Chronicles a 4 out of 5. There were some things that didn't make sense, and as a Terminator fan, I will take point off of that. 2 points if it's out of 10. But yeah, subjectively, it's 4 out of 5. Showgoer, it's entertaining to watch. I mean, yeah, I will give it a 5 out of 5. Objectively, though, it is a 3 out of 5. The show writing got weak. There was things that didn't make, or there was things that did not make logical sense, and there was so many technical goofs that it made the story fall apart. And as I was discussing with nobody until he got cut off, and I got cut off, sadly, sorry about that. There's just too many things that they did, and they wrote themselves into a corner. Honestly, though, I will say that I did enjoy the show, and I will honestly say that it started out very good. It could have been better in the second. It could have been a lot better in the second season. I mean, they did well with some of the stuff, but the story of the second season was weaker. Even if it did have more stuff to show. And hey, Jen's better. I'm actually going to start wrapping up right here, folks, because I do got to get some sleep soon. I got a couple other things. Plus, I also got a couple of live streams that I want to catch at 9. So, anyway, folks, that is going to be the video. Thank you to Jens Pederar, Junebug, Happy Dino, and thank you to Nobody Geek for stopping in as well. I mean, you guys are awesome. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. I did want to give my thoughts, and I did, and then me and Nobody kind of diverted. But yeah, it's okay, Nobody. Thank you, though, for dropping by, man. It was awesome. But yeah, folks, if you catch this on the replay, y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, what you thought of Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles. And did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it made sense in certain areas? Did you not think it made sense in certain areas? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment sections below. Also, folks, make sure you smash that like button. And anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews, and my parting gift and parting advice, stay humble.